Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. And we're doing that here at AT23, the Gaylord Opryland Resort, Hotel and Resort, if you will. It's action-packed. There's people filtering through the hallways, through this convention center area as they learn all about Anthology and their partners. I am, of course, Dr. Joe Salustio. On my left here, the co-founder, producer of the EdUp Experience podcast, Elvin Freitas. Let's go, yes! I know that's the way you like to be introduced. Of course, we're at Anthology
Together
2023 here live in the AT studio.
What?
The EdUp Experience is recording, and we've got two amazing guests with us today, and I'm going to bring them in one at a time. First, ladies and gentlemen, you know him, because if you meet him, you'll never forget his name. I know I won't. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the one and only Mirko Weidenhorn, Senior Director of Engagement Strategy at Anthology. Mirko, what's going on? How are you?
Doing well. Should I point out you mispronounced my last name again?
You don't. I have it spelled phonetically here, and I still mispronounce it.
I know. Don't worry, everybody does.
You can do it, Joe.
Mirko Weidenhorn.
Where's the sound effect?
Oh!
Ladies and gentlemen, Mirko Weidenhorn, Senior Director of Engagement Strategy at Anthology. No, that's okay. We're going to keep it going because one thing I know for sure about this podcast is that we make mistakes.
A lot.
And so when I make those mistakes, it's expected.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't edit them.
Yeah, we don't edit them. So there you go.
Perfect.
Our second guest, I feel like I've got a better chance here.
I think so.
I got a better chance. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to remember her name after she gives you all the stats that you never knew you needed to know. Ladies and gentlemen, her name is Catherine Shaw, Director of Strategy Consulting at Titan Partners. Catherine, how are you? Catherine or Kathy?
Kathy's fine.
Kathy, how are you?
All right.
I am inundated. This is a lot.
This is a lot. Well, we're going to make it easy for you
Kathy,
guys.
me too.
So just a little bit of background. Titan Partners is a leading education advisory firm. Anthology and Titan Partners have partnered together and collaborated on 3 different surveys this year. This is what I love. The first focused on AI use and the digital divide. I want to know all about this. So does every person on the planet right now. And of course, the second releasing here at AT23 is focused on student success. The third survey will be released in September. The one coming out this week is called Driving Toward a Degree, which is very interesting because so much of the narrative is like, you know, should you or shouldn't you drive towards a degree? So I feel like you guys have a lot of stats to unload on us. So I'm going to start with you, Kathy. First, give us a little bit about Titan Partners, what you do, what's the organization about, what do you do, and how do you do it?
Oh, thank you. Well, Titan Partners is a strategy consulting firm and investment bank focused on education. It includes everything from early childhood, K-12, post-secondary, and workforce. And we're really lucky to be able to help our partners as they seek to expand their impact, whether that's with learners, with schools, with districts, policymakers, educators, funders, and others in the space. And the team at Titan that I'm a part of is wonderful because we're a nice pragmatic mix of operators and folks who are educators. And we bring that to bear in all the spaces we work in. For example, it was really fun for me because in this research on driving towards a degree, we focus on student success. And I was privileged to be part of the team at EAB that built one of the products that is, got a lot of market share.
Amazing. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. In the student success space. And right before I started at Titan, I found myself as an adjunct at Georgia State University on the user end of the very product that I helped build.
Nailed it.
So I think, I bring that experience and others to bear in the research and the way we help clients.
You're on the user end of the product you help build. Did you get there and go, wait a second, why is this doing this? Or actually, this is pretty darn good.
I said, I can't believe they haven't adjusted this nudging language since I first drafted it 10 years ago. It was still recognizable. Yeah, but it was actually quite humbling to be in the user position, right? Because we did user research, but now as a user, I wish we had done more.
So talk about why Anthology was the partner. Why is Anthology such a necessary partner in this work?
Well, I'm sure Mirko will expand on this, but what was fun about working with Anthology is they uniquely sit across so many source systems in higher education and in K-12. But in particular for this research, the ability to look at data and have the perspective of someone who understands the data in an SIS and a CRM and an LMS was very key to student success both in and outside the classroom.
Right. So you're talking about the entire life cycle of data management, essentially, right, Mirko?
Absolutely. I don't think I could have said it any better myself. But I mean, that's one of the great things about Anthology is we are this holistic ed tech ecosystem that goes all the way from admissions or the point at which a student is even looking at the institution through their entire student experience, whether that's the student information system, the CRM that they're using both for recruitment and student success, the learning management system like Kathy alluded to, and then all the way through graduation. Then after graduation, we still support them with an advancement CRM and an online engagement platform. So theoretically, an institution working with us could have the large majority of solutions that they use on campus that are Anthology solutions. And I'm sure we'll get into this later, but there's so many potential benefits of that when we talk about data and silos or lack of silos and all of those elements.
You know, it's hard when you work in higher ed because there's so many disparate systems, right?
Absolutely.
You got your CRM over here, you got your SIS over here, unless you have Anthology, of course, and then you have your
good one.
right, seriously, and then and it's like, how do I get one piece of data with an API over to here, over to there? If you can have an ERP and it can give you that life cycle management, you can get data that you couldn't get any other way. So I love that. And Kathy, just to address what you said, because you said this was going to be a lot, but this is actually a really simple format, and this is how it works.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
That's basically how it works here at the EdUp Experience.
Call you Arnold now?
It's very simple.
Kathy's awesome.
Very
yes,
simple.
Kathy.
Very
Well
simple.
done. Well done.
So talk about driving toward a degree. What do we need to know? Maybe 2 or 3 or however many you want to give, really key findings that really inform the results of the report.
Sure. The focus of Driving to Degree this year was to juxtapose the student experience with what faculty and other frontline advisors and administrators have designed for them. And so it's really 2 surveys, an institutional facing survey running in parallel with a student voice survey. And what we found this year is it's really 3 things. We call it the ABCs of student success. A little catchy, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's about awareness, belonging, and coordination.
Nice. Well done.
So our first finding is that a lot of our learners are not aware of the breadth and depth of services available to them on campus. And this ranges from everything from student success coaches to academic advising and everything in between, such as career counseling, financial aid, and things like that. So we just find that students aren't aware.
Kathy, I'm sorry, I'm totally going to interrupt, but what was the percentage? I can't remember. Was it 35% who were not aware
of student success coaches, right?
Wow.
No, and also to be fair, not all schools have student success coaches, right?
True,
So the benchmark there is that
Yeah.
roughly 60% of schools have access to coaches or invest in coaches and have that ability to spend that money that way. But then the comparing stat that Mirko was calling out is it's really only 35% of students where those services are available that are aware that it's there.
Big time.
Why
Exactly.
is that? Why is it? Is it internal marketing? I mean, what did you guys see? Is it just lack of messaging? Is it confusion? Is it...
It's probably a mix of everything, quite honestly. But I mean, I think there are so many elements to that, right? It depends on even how the institution makes sure institutionally everyone is aware of all of the services. I think that's gotten better over the years where academic advisors know about the mental health services and vice versa. And there's a lot of, I think you could talk about this too, Kathy, a lot of coordination between those, but it's all a lot of it's manual. It's, okay, I have to remember to send an email to this person or somehow let them know that the student needs help. And that's just internally for people who work at the institute, who've worked there a number of years. So then how do you expand that to students, right? And make sure they're aware. And sure, you can do some of that during orientation. You can do some of that through maybe a first-year seminar type course, or you can do it through the resident assistants. But to me, there's still opportunity to really look at really a multi-pronged communication approach around all of the services available to students and make sure that they're as easily visible to students as possible, whether that's when they log into the portal, they immediately see all of these options of potential services. Obviously signage on campus, and you'd be surprised sometimes how signage may not be the best. It's pointing out the name of the building, but it doesn't necessarily always list the offices, right? Maybe we flip that and we focus on the offices in the building, not the name of the building. So it really spans so much.
Yeah, there's a lot to do. I would say you might be able to encapsulate it in saying everyone who is working with students on the front line needs to be more active and not as passive with, things like signage or new student orientation. Those are like one-time things. But we would push that, instructors not just need to put a disclaimer on the bottom of their syllabus, but they need to remind students when the ad drop date is coming up. They need to remind students when it's time to make sure that you are showing up for the classes, because, the audit is about to happen. And if you want your financial aid, you need to show up so your instructors know you're there.
I like that one a lot.
Tell them like it is.
Yes, please do.
It.
Even Obama likes it.
Well, it's there's an expectation almost when you get onto college campus or even into an online portal that you just find things, that they're there and you click on the link and it's going to magically unfold in front of you and give you every piece of information you ever wanted. But that's not the case. And students will, it's almost like if they can't find one thing, then they can't find the next thing, and they can't find the next thing, and they stop. They stop looking, or they go home, or they get off the portal. What are some of the higher level themes between these reports that you guys could talk to? Like what came out of them that you just went, boom, mind blown?
I just want to cover, you said you gave me a chance to talk about the main points.
You can talk about whatever you want.
I just want to make sure we get the belonging piece in. And students that we chatted with, if they were taking advantage of services or aware of, 7 out of the 14 services that we tested, they were more likely to say, I belong at my institution, which we know has implications.
That's a fact.
Right? For retention and persistence. Mm-hmm. So we're calling for this awareness of services because it matters to belonging. And then finally, when we're talking about this coordination piece, right, it's everything from, are the traffic cops, the advisors, right, aware of all the services so they can direct referrals? And then on the receiving end, are they able to acknowledge that referral, follow up with the student, and make sure the student actually comes to see them, right? Mm. And so where is that traffic flow? That's featured in the report, and really making sure that everything is happening outside the classroom. And to tie it to what you were asking, which is how is time for class and driving towards a degree related? Time for class talks about student success inside the classroom as supported by digital tools. And driving towards a degree is everything outside of the classroom.
Okay.
And so it's, all the other student support services that institutions invest in.
Mirko, how about some of the unexpected findings that you may have come across in these surveys?
Absolutely. So one thing that jumped out to me, and maybe not unexpected given with what we saw with the pandemic, but just the course modality preferences of students and faculty members. A lot of students still prefer to take an online course based on their experience partially during the pandemic, right? Seeing that it works. Now, admittedly, some instructors would say, well, they don't really work. It depends. I mean, and it's a decision that every institution has to make. But to me, there's definitely an opportunity for institutions to think about adding more online options. And what I hear just talking with some of the schools we work with, that some of those fill up really quickly, especially the intro level type courses where you really need to get out of bed for an 8 a.m. course and sit in a room and just have a professor didactically teach you because it is an introductory course.
What's interesting about that, by the way, not to interrupt you, is that if you have on-ground students taking online courses, then your online students go to take those online courses and there's no courses available. That's
another
big
issue.
problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, even just our nephew now is a second-year student at a university, and he takes some of his courses online and some in person, and he wants both of those experiences.
Nailed it.
Interesting. So the unexpected findings are the things that you really hope to find, right? I think you get kind of an idea of what you know going in, and you go, okay, wait a second, we weren't expecting that. Did you get what you thought out of these surveys for the most part, or do you not go in with expectations?
I try not to,
Okay.
because I want the data to tell me what's real and what's there, as opposed to me hunting to check a hypothesis.
Yeah.
Right. And so what's fun is working with our thought partners on this research is they were also open to looking at the data as it came out. And I think that openness and ability to interrogate the data with an open mind is key to actually coming up with pragmatic recommendations that reflect the reality of folks' experience, whether that's what instructors or what advisors want for their students versus what students are telling us they're actually thinking, feeling, or experiencing.
I do have to say, though, that we were hoping for piece of data which we did see in the survey, which was around technology. Obviously, we're an ed tech company, but I think some of the questions asked about number of systems, integrations of systems, how easy is it to pass information from health services to academic advisors and vice versa? Are there gaps there? And again, we were hoping indicative data would show that, yeah, there is opportunity there. It's certainly what we've heard from institutions, and this demonstrated it as well, both from the student perspective, but especially from the administrator perspective, especially the academic advisors, pointing out they're working in so many systems trying to do their job. If we can identify efficiencies for them, that will make them much more able to meet with more students, which and that's something you could talk about as well, the number of caseloads and all of that.
Let's do some math, Mirko.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait.
Public
You will
math.
learn by the numbers.
Yes.
I won't teach you.
Well
Okay,
done.
go.
All right.
I was a poli-sci graduate and languages
Well
graduate, so not sure, but
You should do this math,
Okay.
I promise. So we spoke to advisors, to career counselors.
A little bit closer to the mic. Yeah.
We spoke to advisors, to career counselors, mental health counselors, and also financial aid counselors. So,
Wow.
4 key student support services. And in the survey, we asked each of those populations, on average, how many screens do you need to pull up in order to have a good conversation with a student advisee, right?
It's fuzzy math.
Okay, so each one of those offices said 2 to 3 screens relating to 2 to 3 systems.
If you're lucky.
And so
Wow.
at minimum, Mirko, 2 times 4.
4, right.
Yeah?
I can do that math.
Okay.
That's
Anybody
That's
out there?
eight
2 times
systems.
4.
8 and
Anybody?
12.
And we go on average then up to 12 systems. And then a lot
Wow.
of respondents, said 5 or more systems.
Oh my God.
So it does
Crazy.
get, complicated quickly.
Yeah.
And imagine the pressure on those advisors
Mhm.
as a glass breaks in the background.
Well done.
It's all
Well
action
done.
here on the
Yeah.
Ed Series podcast.
Everybody's okay though. Everybody's okay.
The pressure on those advisors, they don't have that much time to meet with students. They're scrambling to look at
Yeah.
5 different systems to try to understand where they might direct a student for additional assistance or what they might be able to point out to a student. That's a lot for an
Yeah.
advisor. And they already have very high caseloads. So if there are opportunities to bring that data onto one screen, ideally, or maybe a screen and a half with a little bit of clicking, that makes them so much more efficient, and it gives a better student experience as well.
Yeah, I mean, you think with the way technology is moving right now, you should be able to do those things. You should be able to get all the information you want on one screen. And if you can't, AI might. So let's talk just quickly about AI. What came out of this series of surveys? Because I know Anthology AI is coming. If it's not already, it's in there. It's in the system. Talk about AI, Kathy. Start with you. What did you hear, see, find?
So it's important that any of our insight comes from March 2023, right? Roughly 100 days after the release of the user-friendly version of ChatGPT.
Well said, by the way. I like the way you said that. Well put.
Thank you. And what we saw is that, when we looked at the populations of students, of instructors, and of administrators, students were racing up the experimental curve with generative AI. Roughly 30% of them said they use generative AI tools like ChatGPT at least once a month or once a week. Faculty and administrators were far behind. I think it's something like 9 or 8%.
You have to be crazy.
I said that was March. I expect those numbers have climbed, right? But the pace and kind of the speed of that, we don't know yet. We're going to ping again in September because hopefully folks have spent some time over the summer if they didn't have time during the school year to get smart.
Mirko, anything to add to that?
I think that's definitely some of the background. Certainly what we're seeing is increased interest in AI, or at least curiosity about AI. Let's put it that way. We're excited to announce a lot of initiatives around AI this week. You'll hear more about those tomorrow and some of the other sessions that we have going on, specifically around how it will be included in the learning management system to make professors' jobs easier at building courses. It's incredible what we saw just a couple days ago internally, which we'll share this week at Anthology Together, about ways that AI can help. But I think the other important thing to keep in mind is the way we're looking at it is also just what do we want to make sure is in place before we go forward with AI, right? So we're protecting data privacy. We're thinking about all of those things. It's always going to be an opt-in for an institution or a faculty member. We're not going to push AI on them. But those are the conversations that have to happen. Overall, there's so much opportunity and possibility with AI. And then I was just reading a Chronicle essay. I don't know if you saw it, Kathy. It came out in May from a student, I think, just talking about, you may think that we don't really use AI that much, but here's the reality.
Yeah.
We're basically using it for everything,
Yep.
at the very least to get us started thinking about directionally what we might do to write a paper or whatever it may be. So the reality is they are using it all the time. Faculty members are starting to test it. Some have jumped in head first and are using it, but it's going to continue to evolve, and it'll be interesting to see how that changes. And on the administrator side, how it makes us more efficient and enables technology to be more efficient, again, so that students actually have a better experience.
100%.
Love that one.
Yeah, and I think too, what our data said when we compared kind of faculty users of generative AI, so that's faculty who say they use it at least once a month or once a week, is they were a lot more positive about its potential for learning outcomes for their students than those who had not experimented with generative AI. And so, to Mirko's point, the fact that Anthology is embedding some features in their LMS product, I think is, if you look where the puck is going, right?
Yep.
More and more folks are going to use generative AI, whether that's students, faculty, or administrators. So if you're building for that, build for that excitement, build for that optimism that our survey respondents really relate to us about what's possible.
Bullseye.
Well, I'll tell you what's possible. It's possible for us to have two amazing guests on at the same time. Unfortunately, our time is coming to an end. They keep us to a pretty strict schedule around here. But I'm going to outro you one at a time, just like I brought you in, and it gives me another chance to get your last name right.
No pressure.
He is Mirko Wiedenhorn, Senior Director of Engagement Strategy at Anthology.
Perfect.
Yes,
okay. Absolutely. Thank you, Joe.
And of course, Catherine Shaw, she goes by Kathy, Director of Strategy Consulting at Titan Partners. We appreciate you guys coming on and talking about these surveys. Is there a particular place somebody can go to check out the data?
Of course. Joe, Elvin, you guys should check it out. It's,
We will.
You can find it at titanpartners.com, and it's featured research, and I think it's recommended reading.
If you get to titanpartners.com, you can get the research just like we will go and find ourselves.
100%.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know what you have done? You've just EdUp.